most people who come in and start talking to us have done blood work. They've done a panel a year, everything looks fine, their doctor said they're good to go and scoot them out. It's a 5-10 minute conversation. Here's the issue. There are a secret 5 markers that your doctors do not test that have to do with energy levels, metabolism, fat loss, muscle gain, and more. And the problem is you don't know what to ask for, and insurance companies typically will not allow these to be covered by insurance because they're considered unnecessary. They're considered elective, right? And so this isn't your doctor's fault. This isn't the medical system's fault. It's a system built to keep you not sick, not drastically ill, right? And so that's what they're set up for. They look for 5 or 7 markers when you're at the doctor's to make sure that you don't need high blood pressure medication. You don't need a statin. You don't need metformin. You don't need Ozempic. You're breaking out insulin okay in your body. You don't have diabetes. These are the very small parameters they're looking for. Anything outside of that is not deemed medically necessary, right? And that is a problem because if you feel older than you should, you're exhausted, you're gaining weight, you're losing muscle, you're not able to sleep throughout the night, there are things that you can look at to start to optimize, right? And there's a difference between a lab range and an optimized range. Some of these numbers are 300 to 400 point difference, right? And so that's why every single client that comes into our program, we push to get blood work run for hormones, for thyroid, for metabolism, for cortisol. We want to see a lot of different functions of the body because let's be honest, your body is complex. You go through different stages throughout the month of different releases of hormones, different ways that your body interacts with those hormones through insulin, through glucose, through all these different mechanisms. And to look at one narrow piece to say, you're good, everything's fine, is doing you a disservice. And people are starting to wake up. I'm having conversations with people who are going to their primary for their annual physical. They're pushing their primary to get blood work done, who is then pushing it off to their endocrinologist or their OBGYN or some other specialty until you get 6, 8, 12 months down the road and you're no further along than you were with your primary because no doctor is willing to run these hormones. Even if you go in for hormone replacement therapy, for GI tests, for a scope, for all of these different things, they are not running these secret 5 markers that I'm gonna go through with you today to talk about and give you so that you can take with you and run. Or if you'd like, we can always test them for you, right? And so it's very important to understand the system is not set up for you to feel your best. The system is set up for you not to be sick. And once you do become sick, medicate you, right? And that is the system that we have built in the Western civilization. We have built a system around assisting people once markers are outside of a normal range and limit. And as great as that is, as awesome as that is for people who are seriously sick and need that support, there's a huge majority of the population that need to know what's going on inside their body because they don't feel like themselves, right? And so a normal range is normal compared to who? We're missing context. And that's what I want to talk to you today. I want to talk to you today about context. I want to talk to you today about what I call the hidden 5, the secret 5, which are the markers that I want you to know about so that you can start advocating for yourself. And we're going to talk about optimization and optimal ranges, right? And so let's go through the hidden 5 markers that you need to be asking for and checking and looking at because you are a human being with more than just one system that needs to be optimized, right? So the first one that everybody probably knows of that's massively marketed right now is cortisol. And cortisol, I'll tell you a little secret, cortisol is not a bad thing. Cortisol's good. It's your response to stress. It's your response to stimuli. It's your body's response to keeping you alive. When we were getting chased by a lion in the wilderness, your cortisol spiked, all of a sudden you had all this adrenaline, you could run, take off, be safe, right? But nowadays, people are dealing with chronic issues around cortisol, which can create issues in your body, create issues with glucose sensitivity, create issues with your hormones. It can compress certain markers that we do want to look at and we do want to understand. So cortisol, right, whether it's high or low, can be detrimental over a long period of time. And so I'm going to go through with you high cortisol. The way cortisol works is when you wake up in the morning, you have the most cortisol you're ever going to have. It's like your alarm clock, right? It wakes you up, gets you ready for the day. Then throughout the day, it slowly goes down until the melatonin cycle starts, you start getting ready for bed, you shut off, progesterone releases, you go to sleep, and you release the rest of your hormones. Great, right? That is the normal flow of cortisol. Because of the stimulation, the lights, the everything that we have grown to get used to in our civilization, there are a ton of cortisol patterns that are problems now. And so a lot of people have heard of high cortisol. This is that feeling of like fight or flight. You're always awake, you're frustrated, but you're tired. You're quicker to anxiety, you're quicker to anger. You don't sleep well at night, and you're just always foggy and groggy, but also wired, right? This is that fight or flight response happening for a prolonged period of time. I'm gonna be honest with you. We don't see a lot of people with super high cortisol. We see people more so nowadays with low cortisol. And my theory is with this, if you've been dealing with chronic cortisol, chronic fatigue, chronic issues for a long period of time, at some point your body's gonna crash. At some point your body's gonna start to change. Or let's say you work night shift, right? And your body's upside down. You're gonna feel that, right? And so low cortisol is something that I've been seeing more and more of. I'm talking, the lab range is pretty wide. The functional range where we want you is anywhere from like an 8 to a 12. That's gonna be great first thing in the morning waking up. I'm seeing people coming in with 2, 4, 6, sometimes 29, 30, 40, right? Above or below that functional range. And when cortisol is thrown off, it's gonna do whatever it can to keep your body safe, to keep your body whole, right? So it's gonna start messing with other systems, specifically hormones. It can blunt hormone responses, it can blunt glucose, it can do a lot. Low cortisol is you wake up in the morning, you feel exhausted waking up, and you're dragging through the day. You need 1, 2, 3 cups of coffee, an energy drink, whatever else your go-to is to wake you up, to pick me up. And then by midday, 2, 3 p.m., your body's getting ready for bed. You have that slump, right? We all have that little slump in the middle of the day, but with low cortisol, it feels like you need a nap. You need to walk away. You need to stop. And then guess what? You get home. 8, 9, 10 p.m. rolls around and you have all of this freaking energy. Where did that come from? It's your cortisol coming back up. This is your body thinking, oh, now is the time to wake up. Now is the time to start to function, right? So all of a sudden, you're not sleeping well. Your body's found this groove and homeostasis around the lower cortisol, and happens day in and day out, day in and day out. And what's incredible about your body is when it finds a groove, it stays there, right? It knows, okay, I'm safe here, right? Quote unquote. So this is why it's so important to understand, not just do I have high cortisol, do I have low cortisol? What pattern is it expressing? How has it affected your other markers, your other hormones? And how do we reverse it, right? Because someone with high cortisol is not gonna get the same protocol as someone with low cortisol, right? It's very specific. So it's very important to know cortisol. That is the first marker we're gonna talk about. The second marker, just as important, that can also be influenced by cortisol, is your fasting glucose, your fasting insulin. This is basically how your body breaks down and utilizes carbohydrates for energy. Carbohydrates, you eat them, they turn into glucose. Glucose is our energy source. If we don't utilize carbohydrates, they're easier to store as fat, right? And so if you are starting to become insulin resistant, that can lead to diabetes, that can lead to high blood pressure, that can lead to a lot of things, specifically fat storing around your stomach and your waist, right? And energy levels dipping as well. And so it's very important to know how is our fasting insulin, how is our glucose, because that can also really affect day to day, how we're feeling, the energy we have, the amount of muscle we're able to build, our workouts, all of that kind of stuff, right? So that's the second one, is the fasting insulin or glucose. And those are both so important to understand. The third one, which I know your doctor is not checking unless you have some sort of issue with this already, is thyroid. And when I say thyroid, I don't just mean TSH, which is your like standard thyroid stimulating hormone. I am talking your T3, your T4. This is how your thyroid is converting, and then how your thyroid is utilizing the hormones. And your thyroid helps to affect your metabolism. Again, right link to energy, right link to fat loss, right link to everything on a day-to-day basis, how you're breaking down food, all of that fun stuff, right? And so if this is off, this is why we're seeing so many cases now of hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, all of these different things that are starting to come out, whether you want to say it's because of the environment we build for ourselves, the food, whatever's happening. It's not typically found right away on TSH. It's usually from doing a little bit deeper searching, right? And so for your doctors, they're typically just looking at the top line. They're typically looking at TSH. If that comes out way off the charts, they'll go a little bit deeper, right? TSH is a pretty wide spectrum too. It goes all the way up to 4.5 from 0. And so anything in that spectrum is considered normal. Here's the thing. We want you between a 1 and a 2. That's really where your body is optimized and acting like it should. So anything outside of that, we start to question, hey, why is our thyroid not producing or handling our body the way it needs to, right? So TA3 and T4 will give us exclusive access to understand what the heck's going on with our thyroid and our metabolism, right? So again, those are our 3 so far. We have cortisol, we have insulin, glucose, we have T3, T4. Number 4, which is hugely important, and especially for women, we don't even think about it, is testosterone, right? And I know what you're thinking. Testosterone, it's a male hormone, right? Men need a lot of it, right? And that's just not the case. Women need testosterone just as much as men. They have lower numbers of testosterone, and it spikes at different times throughout the month. But it's very, very important that you have sufficient amount of testosterone for muscle building, for energy, for your motivation, for get up and go. That's what I connect testosterone to. So if you're low on testosterone, you're gonna feel exhausted, fatigued, like you can't push yourself through your workouts. And if your testosterone's super high, we may wanna look into something, into PCOS, which could be, that's typically high testosterone is linked with PCOS and PCOS-like symptoms, right? And so you might experience some chin hair, some hair falling out, exhaustion, fatigue, insulin sensitivity, or even cysts on your ovaries, right? Those are all gonna be aligned with PCOS and high testosterone. And so what needs to happen is very different if you have high testosterone or low testosterone. And testosterone is one of those things that's super, I don't want to say complex, but it's big, right? The way that we actually measure testosterone is, first we want to look at how is it being produced, so that is total testosterone, and then we want to look at how is it being utilized in the body, which is free testosterone. So we can't just have one picture. We want to have total. The big picture would be total testosterone, free testosterone, bioavailable testosterone, which is what your body can utilize, and then something called sex hormone binding globulin, which is SHBG. And this is basically how testosterone gets shuttled into your body. So it's important to know how you're showing up. For example, for me, when I was young, I suffered low testosterone. I went in around 19 or 20 years old. I was at about 200 to 300 was my number, right? And for women, if you're up there, that's a problem. But for men, that is normal. That is considered on the normal spectrum. But 200 to 300 is what a 70-year-old man deals with. I was 20. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to build muscle. I wanted to have energy. That is not where I should be. I went on a natural protocol, and now to this day, I just got retested. I'm around 600 to 700 for a 31-year-old male. That is right where you want to be. Right? And so it's very important to understand, like, testosterone is such a wide range. And so where do you need to be in order to feel your best? For men, for women, it's very, 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 very different, right? And so understanding these numbers and the optimal numbers are so important. And this is why it's so frustrating that, 1, we can't even get those 4 tested typically from our doctor. And 2, if they do go through and test it with us, they don't explain it. They just say everything looks good. You're within the normal range. For most HRT protocols for women, hormone replacement therapy protocols, they don't even test these things. They go based off how you're feeling. I don't know about you, but if I'm gonna put something in my body and I can measure the levels, I wanna know I'm putting enough or not enough in to see the changes I wanna see. Yes, it's good to feel better, but if you're not optimized, if you're not in that optimized zone, then that's a big, big problem. Now we're gonna move on to our last one, number 5, which is one of my favorites because it tends to be one of the ones that no one tests for, and one of the ones that you need to know if you are holding water weight, holding excess fat, feeling exhausted, and not seeing results even though you're pushing. And this is gonna be estrogen. We measure this by estradiol, but not only that, we also wanna look at progesterone. So the ratio of estrogen and progesterone is gonna be so important to understand and make sure you have energy, right? And all of these things, it's not like hey, you fix one and then you fix another. All of these things work as one, right? Your body tries to balance. And so I want you to think about it. If one of these things gets knocked over like a domino, the rest of them start to fall and we start to be out of alignment. And that's why it's so helpful to know what we're going after, because most of the people we talk to, most of the people who come to us are throwing stuff at a wall, spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on supplements that are not moving the needle. And that's why we want to know what data we're looking at to be able to make sure we're not wasting money, we're not wasting time, we're not jumping to prescription. We're trying to naturally and holistically move our body back to where it needs to be. And especially nowadays where physicians are so quick to rip hysterectomies, ripping out uteruses, doing all of these things that make it so difficult to understand what's our body doing? How is it reacting? Because guess what? You may not have ovaries, you may not have a uterus, but hormones are still very, very important for your body. They still help to day to day give us how we feel, how much energy we have, how likely we are to lose weight, how good our sleep is, how we show up, how our anxiety and our nervous system reacts. And so it's so important that we start to look a little bit deeper than we have in the past. This technology, like we partner with Quest, there are thousands of labs all over the US. And so this technology is there, it exists, it's right in front of us, and it's not hard to access. So we need to make sure that we are advocating for ourselves to understand where we're at and where we want to be. No longer is it viable to say everything's normal and not question it. You have the internet at your fingertips. You have me right here at your fingertips. I have people sending me blood work all the time, and I'm happy to give you my thoughts. But without data, without knowing where to go, without knowing how to progress, it feels like you are shooting yourself in the foot and slowing your process. Maybe you get one thing right, but then all of a sudden everything else is wrong, so you don't feel a big change. You don't feel a difference. We want to make sure that you are not in a rowboat rowing with or against the current, excuse me. We want to make sure you go with the current. We want to make sure you have momentum, because let me tell you, if your cortisol is super high, if your testosterone is super high, if your estradiol is super jacked up, and you're going to the gym, you're working out, you're eating healthy, it doesn't matter how hard you're pushing, you're not going to see the results you want to see. You're not going to be at where you want to be. And that's why it's so important to understand what's going on inside your body. So again, if your doctor's telling you everything's fine, you know everything's not fine, you feel 20, 30, 40 years older than you should, you can't keep up with the kids, you can't drop weight to save your life, and you're doing all the right things, it's time to look a little bit deeper. It's time to understand what's going on inside your body, not just what are my macros, right? And so I would urge you to start to get curious, to start to ask the questions, to start to do the digging, to reach out, to make informed decisions around your body, because hate to break it to you, but your doctor, the medical system, they're not going to care as much about you as you do. You live in your body on a day-to-day basis. The doctors, they don't. They want to be there. They want to help. Deep down, I know they do, but the system's not built for that. The system is built for quick interactions to make sure you're not sick. This is your opportunity to step up, raise your hand and say, I want to know what's happening inside me. And so it's so important to go for that extra, well, you don't need to do it often, maybe twice a year is great, to see where things are going, right? And so if you want help to understand what panel should I run based off how I'm feeling, what could be going on wrong, what is my body experiencing, go ahead and click the link in my bio, jump on a call with me. I'm happy to just go through with you what markers I would recommend and what you're dealing with. That way you don't feel like you're trying to swim upstream. You matter, your life matters. You're the only one that has the power to take it in your hands and really advocate for yourself. So I'm going to push you here. Go ahead, take that extra step, ask your doctor, ask someone around you, make sure that you are doing all you can to get back to where you want to, and you're not just settling for feeling meh in your 30s, 40s, and 50s.